It's the most wonderful time.
It's the most wonderful time of the year, 12/21. And the most wonderful time of the year around here is when Tony Jones gives us his predictions about what's going to be happening in religion in the coming year. So we're going to hear about these news stories, and we're going to hear his predictions for what's going to happen in this segment. And Tony's going to give us 3, and because we wanted to have 5, I'm going to give you mine, and the sidekick, a.k.a. in his own mind, the co-host, is going to give you his prediction.
Sure.
All right.
But you want to circle back to these stories? I mean, in the top 10 stories, I'll tell you one that, maybe it's not politically correct for it to really bug me, but because it's not really... the fact that there's no Protestant on the Supreme Court, it actually does bother me. And
why so?
And it's funny because I don't overly relate to Protestantism as my tribe.
Yeah.
But I do think that diversity on the highest court in the land is really valuable. And I do think, because I've studied a lot of philosophy, that in general there's a different legal philosophy in Catholic legal scholars than there is among Protestants.
Yeah, and the problem isn't just that there's no Protestant. In my mind, if you don't know, folks, about this, that the 9 members of the Supreme Court are all Catholic.
Well, no, it's like 7 Catholics and 2 Jews.
Yeah. So what you don't, it's not just that you don't have any Protestants, it's that you have 7 who are part of the same tradition.
Right.
It's not just who's missing; it's there's too much similarity.
I actually find that really problematic when it comes to legal theory and legal reasoning. Right. Because
and what I'm getting at is you're not saying, "Hey, where are the Protestants? We need Protestants." You're saying these people are all the same, and that doesn't represent the country very well.
Right. Like there is a very robust form of legal scholarship and thinking that goes back to Thomas Aquinas, and that most Catholic law schools teach, and that's very well represented right now on the Supreme Court. But the more the rich tradition of Protestant legal theory is not, it's not represented on the Supreme Court right now. And I think that the Supreme Court should be, in some ways, reflective of our society.
But there's so many other things about where these Supreme Court justices come from that are also disturbing about their lack of diversity. That they all come from the same education system.
Like over half of them went to Yale Law School. I mean, of all the law schools, there are other great law schools in the country, but you do start to think, is this a bit of a boys club?
And you think, what a change that is. So it's sitting in the studio right behind your shoulder is a picture of President Kennedy, right, that's up here in the studio. So here in the studio, and it reminds me that at the time in the middle 60s, late 50s and early 60s, the idea that you could have a Catholic president was seen as scandalous.
Yeah, or a Catholic Supreme Court justice couple decades before that.
And now 7 out of 9 are Catholic. You wouldn't think, people don't really think that is an indication of the change, both in the Protestant Catholic divide in this country, which in that sense is a good thing, right? When you're thinking about culturally, to me, that is a sign that things have gotten better.
Yeah.
On the other hand,
don't get me wrong. I'm glad Catholics aren't stigmatized anymore.
Right.
That their allegiance might be to the Pope instead of the. Right. But my goodness, I mean,
you're right.
I just would like to see that, and let me highlight one other story, and it'll lead me into my first prediction, and that is the bankruptcy of the Crystal Cathedral, which is more emblematic of the change in the religious landscape and how that's affected by the economy. So here's my first prediction, because I think that was a really big deal that the Crystal Cathedral declared bankruptcy. I think that...
Well, talk about why you think that was a big deal.
Well, because the Crystal Cathedral, my gosh, I mean...
If people don't know, the Crystal Cathedral is a big church.
Yeah, it's the first megachurch.
Big megachurch, was around for a long time, big charismatic leader, television programs, the whole deal. They had it all going on for them.
Yeah, and it's in Orange County, and the transition from father to son didn't go well. And son was removed after less than 2 years as the new senior pastor, and dad was brought back in, and the board of directors, and this and that. And it all was about money. They say it was about vision or et cetera, but it really was all about money, because it was really a personality-driven ministry, and Sonny Jr. just couldn't pay the bills like Dad could, and the massive infrastructure of that church was too much for them to pay for.
It's
so
too big of an industry.
Too big, yeah. So here's prediction number one. I think that a significant American denomination will declare bankruptcy in 2011.
Big news, breaking big news.
Now, I don't know that it'll be the United Methodist Church or the Presbyterian Church.
It might be
USA,
a small little one, but
it might be the next tier down. But for people who are
known of denomination, will
for
declare
people who are
bankruptcy.
in the religion business, like the three of us, it'll be a denomination that when the name is said, you'll say like, "Oh, I know where that headquarters is."
I know people who are one of those.
I know somebody who works there.
Yeah, I know people.
I think that they won't go out of business, but I think one of them might have to declare bankruptcy.
Yeah, bankruptcy protection.
Yeah.
Okay, Tony declaring that denominations are going to be filing bankruptcy. Prediction number 2.
This is my weakest prediction.
You only got 3.
I know.
When do we get to say ours?
Right when he's done.
I had to do something with Catholicism.
Okay.
I think that there will be the Catholic Church will make some doctrinal change this year. They will announce that they're changing some doctrine or some position, and that'll make some news. I don't know what it'll be because I'm not in that world that much.
Doctrinal change in the Catholic Church. Prediction number 3.
Billy Graham will die.
Oh, jeepers. You are just a gloomy Gus.
Billy Graham. No, I think Billy Graham will pass away, and that will be an enormous news story. And here's what's funny.
You will be blamed on this program the day that news breaks.
I know. I don't know if we're doing the dead.
All right, we're down to
pool.
2 minutes. So.
Okay, but let me just say that I was at the Dallas Morning News headquarters, and I saw the file where they keep the files for all the people who are about to die for the obituary.
Yeah.
And there's a big old thick file. Billy Graham was right in the front, and that's what made me think
he's ready
this
to
might
go.
be his year, and that's going to provoke a lot of conversation about who's America's pastor now.
All right, bankruptcy for denominations. The Catholic Church is going to make a doctrinal adjustment, and Billy Graham won't be with us in 2012, according to Tony Jones.
Yeah.
Sidekick, what's your prediction?
I think it's the rise of the small church. You've seen a big emphasis on house churches in the past, and obviously a lot of emphasis for those who are in this business on how to grow your church and how to become a big successful church. I think you're going to see a lot more churches under 100 that are going to just gain favor and have a lot of spotlight.
And my prediction is that in 2011, this song will become part of the worship background for churches in the charismatic movement. A lot of charismatic churches already sound a lot like that, but that one, the Lady Gaga, is going to become part of
interpretation.
Is going to become part of the worship set in your charismatic churches. So there it is. Those are our predictions for next year. You can stick with us for a whole other year, and we will let you know at the end of the... Oh, actually, if any of those were to happen throughout the course of the year, we'd be bragging about it nonstop. So you can listen to the program as we go. Natural health coach Shelley Pagitt has just walked into the studio. She is geared up with her 4th piece of advice for a natural health life. So stick around for natural health coach Shelley Pagitt. Tony Jones, thank you for your predictions. And we'll be back here after this break on AM 950, The Voice of Minnesota.
You look a lot like Christmas everywhere you go.
Angela here for Zero Res. I'm expecting a lot of Pete and Poss to be walking across my carpet this month, but I don't